Start of a busy little period, 3 games in 8 days. Any injuries to contend with heading into the Rotherham one first up?
No, only the ones that we'd had already. I think fingers crossed we're in a good place. Just saying there, we're trying to keep the medical department as free as possible and let them have a bit of time off. They've been stretched in recent times, so hopefully we can make life a bit easier for them.
I'm guessing over the course of these next 3 games, without giving too much away, you'll kind of have to rotate your squad, will you, so early in the season?
Not particularly. We'll see. I think it's hard. You can always look and plan ahead, and then whether it's an injury, whether it's the result, whatever it is, can maybe sway your thinking again. So I'm not going to make plans set in stone, certainly, in terms of that's going to be the team Saturday. Will change massively for Tuesday and the following game. So one game at a time, really. Boring cliche, but that's what we'll be doing.
And great to see Danny and Emir and Teddy playing some football the other day. Have you got a rough time scale in mind? Do you look towards the first international break, or how far ahead do you look for those 3?
Again, I think day to day, because they've certainly, in Em's case, and I think Teddy's, they've spent a hell of a long time out. What I would say is the 3 lads you mentioned there have all trained this morning, completed the session, no problem. On the back of the game Tuesday, so they're in a good place, and fingers crossed that can continue. I think they due a little bit of luck, those lads, and the other day I think all 3 of them showed some signs of what they could bring to this squad and to the team. So positive signs, but I don't want to get sort of fans' hopes up too much, or be again penciling them in thinking they're going to be involved very quickly. But each day they're back out on that training pitch is a step in the right direction.
Reunited the last couple of days with Nolan and Enciala from last season and from Grimsby. Did you always plan to bring those 2 players in? It's only natural, I guess, an ambitious manager who would think, if I step up a level, who could I take with me, kind of thing.
Yeah, and again, it's the biggest thing for me is I think they're good enough. I like them as people, but I like some other people that can't play football, and I'm not going to sign them. But you know exactly what you're getting with them. The challenge for them is, and I think I've seen both of them spoke about it, is they understand it is a step up, and I think quite a big step. They'll be keen to prove themselves, so they're not going to come here and think, a manager likes me, I'm just going to get in the team. It's not about that. But delighted to have them on board. It was something on my mind, maybe in particularly John Nolan's case, with the midfield players we've got, etc. That was the one that you just thought, would it fit? But thankfully we've managed to make it fit. And I have to say, as midfield's looking extremely strong. It's going to give me some serious headaches in there. But again, whether it's rotation, whether it's just people being in better form than others, I'm really comfortable and very pleased about what we've got in there.
Caden Jackson, another nice one to get over the line on the final day of the window. What do you like about him?
Pace. Again, I think an enthusiasm to his play, a challenge again of stepping up. I've said it before, I don't want him to come in and think that's it now. Need him to push on to see if he can score a lot of goals in the Championship. Brings a different dynamic up there, and again, someone that I've worked with, so I know his character. I think I have to say, from when I worked with him as his manager, there's been quite a bit of improvement in Caden. Hence the reason why we've gone in for him, and glad to get that one over the line, because it's these deals, you don't wake up one morning and say, let's sign them, and then they turn up the next day. They've been bubbling away for some time. At times it's looked like they haven't been going to happen, but importantly now we've got a stage, and the Ipswich Town players.
Speaking a couple of hours before the window shuts, any other business do you foresee, either ins or outs at this stage?
I don't think so. I certainly don't expect anything. It's not the weather for people to be stood out in the rain waiting for signings to come in, so I don't think we'll have any of that. But I'm pleased with what we have done. And I think last week I said we've probably done more business than I envisaged doing. And with 3 signings this week as well to add to that, we there's been quite a few changes, and I think that's, from my point of view, needed to happen, needing just to freshen things up. That's not a slight on the players that were here. It's to add to the mix, get a bit of a new feeling, hopefully a little bit of a buzz. There are a couple of deals perhaps that we've missed out on, and I still think we'll probably have to look into the loan market for 1 or 2 more players between now and September. But overall, as I said, I think it's been a pretty productive time for us.
Might you allow 1 or 2 to go out on loan as well, particularly if you've got those 3 midfielders on the verge of coming back? You've got a lot of players in that area right across the middle, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. And again, I think that will be something I'll certainly be looking at. And in some cases, certainly not because I don't think they're good players or I don't see them having a future at Ipswich Town, but more about people getting games, and trying to get them somewhere where I feel that they can aid their development, get minutes on the pitch, because I never will send anyone out on loan and try and speak to a manager or a club and say they've got to play. That's a load of rubbish in my opinion. You've got to earn the right to play. As a manager, you don't want something hung over your head saying you have to play a certain player, because if he's not the best one for the team at that moment in time, and sometimes it's not even fair on the player. So I'm not really keen on those sort of deals, but where you feel they've just got a genuine opportunity to play, that's sort of what we'll look for with a couple of lads.
And Marcus has certainly backed you, hasn't he? It's been brave in a sense from him, because his club has gone off in a totally different direction. Yeah,
but whether that, you'd have to ask him if you can get hold of him.
It's unlikely.
In terms of maybe starting with myself and Chris coming in, while it was only a league below, we clearly hadn't managed in the Championship before, and maybe it's followed suit. But I bring in my thoughts and views of how best to move forward with what we've got to work with, and I know there might be some concerns out there. I can't say that they might not come to fruition, but I want to give it a go, doing it a certain way, and that's what we're doing, rather than going for the maybe same old names, tried and tested. I want to try and add some value to this squad, and I think we've got, again, there's never ever a guarantee, but we've got a lot of players, I think, in the squad now where you could really see, in time, clubs being interested and perhaps getting some good fees for him again. It's a relatively young squad, quite fresh, and again, a lot of them are unproven. They've got to prove their worth. But I think, from my point of view, it's going to be exciting working with them and trying to help them develop, trying to give them the confidence to compete in the league against some good clubs, not be overawed by the name of the club or maybe a name that they're directly against. And let's have a go. It's kind of all we're going to ask for the players.
Going back to one of your old clubs this weekend, it's a bit different from Millmore now, I realise, but what does Rotherham mean to you?
Very close to my heart, having spent so much of, almost all my playing career there. It was, pleased for the club, it moved on. Unfortunately, I wasn't there to play at the new stadium. I've only been there a couple of times, actually, but my most recent memory wasn't a good one. Losing out to them at Wembley, but pleased for them as a football club, and pleased for the lads that are there. Paul Warren, Richard Barker, Matt Amshaw, Mike Pollitt, 3 of them that I played with at Rotherham. Very good lads, and it'd be nice to see them on Saturday. But hopefully it might be my turn to be smiling at the end of the game, hopefully. Did
you get on well with Paul? Was he somebody that dropped you a line when you got this job, that kind of thing?
Yeah, stayed in touch, and he's a great character. He makes people laugh. He makes me laugh when even in management, he don't want to be a manager. I think he's enjoyed it the more success he's had, but fair play for him to sticking with it, because he was thrown in at a very difficult time when Rotherham were really struggling in the Championship, and that was a real baptism of fire for him, and to stick with it. And last season it wasn't exactly a poor start, but they weren't quite as high up the table as certainly they finished, and did very well. So this time I know he'll be a lot more optimistic about his chances in the league and be better prepared.
Last Saturday's result for them at Brentford doesn't do you any favours, I wouldn't have thought.
No, I mean the fact it's the first home game back in the league as well. We know they're going to be fired up for it. I know that there'll be a very fit group of players. They'll give absolutely everything for Warney and that football club, and we've got to make sure that we're ready and up for that challenge. Yes, it was a heavy defeat at Brentford. I have to say, I've watched the game. Brentford played extremely well. I think I'd be surprised if they wouldn't have give everyone a really tough game on the day. And as I've just alluded to, despite the scoreline, Rotherham kept going right to the end. So make no mistake, it's not going to be a team that's just going to crumble. We'll have to earn everything that we try and get from the game.
And amongst everything else, the last week you've had to contend with the game against Blackburn. In the transfer window, you took in a bit of other sport. You went to the Speedway last Thursday. What do you make of events up at Foxhall?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was the first time I've been. Took my son and his friend's son along. They had a great time. The weather was certainly better than today. Told it might be called off because of the weather. But no, it's nice to see something different. Get to meet the owner, the manager, and a couple of the riders after. So no, it was a good evening.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you.
We've talked about no further ins. What about any potential outs today? Because there's been some interest in both Jonas Knudsen and Joe Garner, as we understand it.
Yeah, as we sit here, I don't think any of them will be leaving. But it is a transfer window in football, and you're never quite sure. I certainly think with Jonas, I'd expect him 100% to be here. I think with Joe, that might be slightly different, but again, I haven't been told that anything's looking likely on that front. So I think it'll be as we are in terms of the squad moving forward.
Would you have wanted another striker in before you let Joe go?
I think in an ideal world, we probably would. But again, he might not be going anywhere yet. It's a difficult one because Joe's clearly an experienced player, and he's different to a lot of what I've just been sort of speaking about. And that experience could be vital for us. So Joe's situation isn't an absolutely straightforward one. But we'll see what these next couple of hours bring, and then thankfully I'll be able to ignore my phone for a little while. Although, as I've mentioned, we will be looking at sort of loan opportunities between now and the close of the window, the second closure, if you like.
Yeah. Josh Windass is someone that's been spoken about a lot today. Latest reports are that he might be heading to Wigan just before we've come in here.
Yeah.
Is he someone that you've been in for?
I like the player. Definitely like the player. We've, I think, inquired about it, but I don't think it's something that we could pursue. So someone had mentioned that he's on his way here, which as Pierce just said, it might have been his dad more likely that was on his way. So no, he's a good player, and we really are interested in any good players. I think he would have fitted as well, but he doesn't look like that one's going to happen.
Okay. And you say the loan window's open to you. You can do loans with view to a permanent as well, couldn't you? Is that something that you might explore?
I'm not going to get sort of too hung up on whether or not I feel that they can be turned into permanents. I think it's just important of you're assessing every day. What can happen between now and that window closing is injuries or if someone's really out of form, you think you need to change something. But in general, I think I've got a pretty clear idea in truth of what I'd like to bring in positionally. But I think a lot of situations will change after today in terms of people know the permanence they've got. If they've managed to get deals in that they've wanted, suddenly, there'll be more players available, and probably we're no different to that. I haven't circulated anyone's name for loan or anything like that. After today, I think, what we've just been speaking about, I'll make people aware that we might have some players available if they'd like to take them on loan.
Would you like one more centre back, ideally?
Yeah, I think that's an obvious position. When we're talking injuries, Luke Wolfenden went for a scan. It's nothing at one bit, with knees you're always thinking the worst, but he could be out for sort of 6 weeks. So we're almost realistically back to the position we were in with two recognised centre backs. And I know I didn't start Luke last week. We have got one or two ways around it, but it's not ideal, and would certainly prefer a more specialist person to create competition with Luke and Toto now.
And just on the window in general, it's 9 in, several out. I think people are excited that it's fresh and new, and you've said the reasons why you felt you just wanted to freshen things up. But there's one or two people saying that is it changing too much too soon would be the one concern that people would say. Is that something in the back of your mind as well?
Maybe it is, but at the same time, if it all goes wrong, and I maybe hadn't instigated those changes and tried to make those happen, then I'd have been kicking myself thinking I'd rather have made that. And I'm a big believer in that don't have any regrets at the end of anything. Go with what you feel's right. If it doesn't quite work out, I'll probably sit at home, drown my sorrows and think, evaluate, should I, what could I have done differently? I'm hoping that's not for a long time. So we'll see. Time will tell, and there's no guarantees either way. That's what I would say. It's a bit like one of those situations. Hindsight's always a wonderful thing, but fingers crossed. The players that we brought in, added to what was already here, can be competitive and get some good results for us.
Just a little bit more on Jackson, because he sounds like, from the show reel and everything that we've heard about him, he's going to be another one that perhaps gets fans off their seats, excites people.
I hope so. I say when he takes off running, but what Caden will, I'm sure, encounter at times is, one, players that read the game better. In general, probably better athletes across the board in this league, so he won't be able to run away from them quite as well. And also, teams aren't going to be silly. They'll know about Caden, despite the fact he's come from a team that got promoted from League Two. So he's going to have to be a little bit clever in his play, and that's something we'll try and help him with. But no, I think he is one that's, like I say, that no one likes playing against pace, and if a team decide to sit off, then naturally that should create more space for some of his, ball playing midfielders, wide players to get into little positions. You want a mix, so a team can't just set up one way and nullify you. And I think he does bring a real asset to us that will suit certain games, and other games that it might be others that benefit if he's in the team.
Where do you see his best role?
Centre forward.
Centre forward.
Yeah.
Did he do the wide roles? Did he play in the hole?
He's played there before, but I think ultimately it depends again. If we play with a front three, which we've done more often than not, you can play them, the wider lads, slightly different. They don't have to be out and out wingers, but I've spoke many times that I like that type of player. What I would say is I can have all these thoughts in my mind and ideas. Sometimes you stumble across something, and I wouldn't be the first manager. Some people say it's lucky, sometimes it is. But I brought him in as a centre forward. But that's not to say that he won't ever play in a different position. again, if we need a goal, you want people on the pitch that are goal scorers, and Caden's hopefully going to be that. Thank you.
Caden had a chance in the Championship before. Well, he didn't get a chance in the Championship before,
Yeah.
didn't he? He was with Barnsley. Did it surprise you that they didn't? Because you had him on loan, presumably from Barnsley, didn't you?
Yeah, we did, and I watched quite a bit of him. They played him often on the wide right. They had another player that had Stephen Payne playing down the middle. Steph was probably further on in terms of getting closer, and I think for one reason or another he just didn't quite get that opportunity. So we kept monitoring. We did take him on loan. Didn't get to work with him too much because of timing of me moving on. He picked up a little injury at one point, although he had scored on his debut, or well, sort of two debuts, the last pre-season friendly and then into the first game of the season. So we know, again, his character, we know what strengths he has and weaknesses, which hopefully we'll get to work on in time. But no, I think he's still a young player. I think the biggest example of anything is at this moment in time is probably Harry Kane, when more so going out on loan. But he had quite a few loan moves that didn't work out, and people, I'm sure, at the time were saying he was rubbish and waste of time, and he seems to have done all right for himself since.
So he's the new Harry Kane, that's what you're saying?
Now you're putting words in my mouth, but no, if he can be off that player, we'll take that.
So your general sort of strategy throughout your business, you pick the cream of the players that you've spotted in League One and League Two while you've been working at that level. Is that how you would assess it? Yeah,
I think that's fair comment. Again, I did something similar-ish at my previous club, where giving players an opportunity to play at the highest level that they have. I just said Caden's slightly different, but I don't think, in truth, he would be a player that says, I've been a championship player before. He was put into the development team, really, whatever age group that were. We seem to change it every year or two. So it might have been 21s back then, I'm not sure. But overall, I speak about, hunger, a little bit of potential, but also a lot of players that I truly believe can make the step up. I wouldn't have brought them here if not. And again, we I don't think I'm being rude to ourselves. We know that we have to sort of shop in a certain market. Some of the players that are getting moves, I would love to have brought here. It was never ever going to happen. The more money you've got, the easier it is to get exactly what you want. But at the same time, I am pleased with the players that we've brought in, and hopefully the fans will like them as well. Given a bit of time and seeing them pull the Ipswich Town shirt.
Time is something we've talked about a lot with transfers, but time, you've got a number of players who are stepping up to a new level all at the same time.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while for them to gel, isn't it?
I think so. Just in terms of getting the message across. Sometimes you feel like they've got it, already, whether it's on training, whether it's like last Saturday, the game. Some bits I'm thinking, yeah, that's it, and then they kind of go away from that slightly. So to get a team to play exactly how you want, you're very, very fortunate if it suddenly clicks. It can happen. It probably happened again last season, where we went on an unbelievable start. But here, a level up, I think probably more clinical opposition, better quality opposition. It might take a bit of time, but while ever I feel that the players are giving everything, and that includes out on the training pitch, I'm certainly willing to give them a little bit of time, but not too much, to put on performances and take us where I want us to be.
And you made that step up yourself at Rotherham, didn't you? When you came up from,
yeah,
you got promoted 2 years running, didn't you, at Rotherham?
Yeah, and if you'd have, I think, said a lot of that team that got promoted actually started the championship season and played quite a few games. And I know at the time the manager was of the thought of we need players. And again, maybe particularly there through finance, he couldn't make too many changes, had to sort of go with what he got. and we managed to do okay. We were never going to win the league or anything like that, but a lot of those players, myself included, in League Two, if you'd have asked certainly fans and probably managers or even teammates that said you're good enough to play in Championship, would have kind of been laughed out of there. But it just shows with a determination, a desire, sometimes what can be achieved. And these players, like I said, don't write them off just yet. Let's give them an opportunity. Chances are one or two might struggle a little bit, and while I want them again to perform right now, sometimes it takes players a year, almost 2 years sometimes. Now, that's okay, we wanted to, providing everyone else is up to speed. Where we clearly would struggle is if all of those are taking a year, 2 years to get up to speed, and then the chances are I won't be speaking to you. So, like I said, I can't afford for them all to take that time.
Okay. Thank you.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers.
Thanks
very much.